Aloha Maui Nui. Hey, this is Josh Porter.
And Jason Burkhardt. That was enthusiastic.
I'm excited. I'm looking at this streaming here, and it's pretty cool, man.
Excellent. I am looking at it as well.
Very good. Okay, folks, this is the Solar Coaster episode number 104. This is Brent Alderfer. He's the CEO and co-founder of CEI, which is Community Energy Industries. Is that what it is? Community Energy Inc.? What is it?
Inc.
Got it.
I was just on the website. It is incorporated.
I'm looking at him right now. Great website, great guy. Okay. We talked all about how to scale up deployments of renewable energies and kind of get us from, I guess, that 100-ish gigawatt mark globally upwards of a terawatt. How the heck do we get there? So he has a lot of ideas on that. We did a great session with him earlier in the week. We're going to hear from him after we get through news and events and our overall intro today. So very good. You ready to go, Jay?
Absolutely.
Okay, folks, this is the Solar Coaster. We are a renewable energy themed talk show right here in lovely Maui County. We can be found Fridays at 1:05 p.m. on Kauai 1110 a.m. Also, 96.7 FM Central Maui, 96.5 FM Westside, 98.7 FM Upcountry.
We also have a website, www.solar-coaster.com. That's solar-coaster.com. You can actually jump in right now. We just mentioned we're live streaming again, which is a big deal for us because we couldn't get it to work for the longest time. But if you click on the listen live link, you can get us anywhere in the world, whether you're in the broadcast area or not. You can actually jump in the studio, see what we look like. Well, not me because I'm not there. And best thing on the website, though, is the mailing list / question submission box. On any and every page, you can go down, fill in your question if you don't want to call in for whatever reason or can't because we do a lot of pre-recorded interviews. Get us your questions. We'll definitely get them on the air and get you set up with solar and renewables as best we can. We're also available on podcast networks. iTunes, Stitcher, and TuneIn all carry the Solar Coaster. You can do things like, hey, Siri, and it will find it for you. I hope I didn't activate everybody's phone.
Oh, you should do that, Jay. Do it.
I just did it. I think I just did it. That's what I'm worried about. But do a hey somebody, and it will play Solar Coaster podcast, and it will find it for you, and then you can take us everywhere you go.
Very good. This is the call-in show, folks. 808-242-7800 is the call-in line. We do have a pre-recorded main show focus today, but if you'd like to give us a call, you can do that one of these days. Let's go over to the Pantech Design Minute.
Pantech Design Minute number 7. Smart weather forecasting. This is a really nice feature. It makes use of weather forecast information from the Adapt Energy Energy package. It allows you to modify the patterns back up as a reset if the Adapt Energy Energy package detects a severe weather event morning in your area. The system will automatically start the Sunday equals weather, charge you up to 100% to prepare your home for the incoming storm and the potential loss of grid power. This maximizes your weather capacity for backup power when it is most. Furthermore, the Adapt package can notify other home automation systems like lighting, shades, thermostats, or other devices, which can then be adjusted to ensure the safety and security of your home. Imagine using the system to prepare for extreme weather in your house. Adapt will simultaneously take steps on your behalf, like topping off your home battery, powering up your EV, cooling your home, or preheating your hot water system. All of these systems together make sure that you are ready to take on the upcoming storm. This has been Pantech Design Minute.
All right, that's Pantech Design, kind of doing these really amazing things, integrating smart house equipment with solar plus battery.
Yeah, it seems like a no-brainer when you think about it after the fact, but I mean it's just mind-bogglingly futuristic, cool stuff that they're doing every single week.
Yeah, and there's some discussion now about kind of putting some video to that and kind of seeing it a little more clearly. So I'm kind of excited to take the next step. Alrighty, let's go over to our news and events, Jay.
All right, news and events. The first big piece of news, and I'm ashamed of you, Mr. Porter, is that you neglected to introduce our studio guests.
Oh, well, I figured you would jump into that. I didn't take it any time. Yeah, we do actually have a full studio today. So we've got Mr. Solar Anthony.
Aloha Maui.
And we've got, can I say Canny? Right, and then we've got Julia Porter, and she's driving the, what do you want to call it, Jay? What's the live
She's
stream?
Running the live stream, which is absolutely impressive. Thank you, Miss Porter.
Very good. Welcome to the studio, folks.
a large number of articles are all over the web. Large Tesla ships, all electric container barges, are launching. This is actually, I guess it was an older piece of news that was bopping around. You had sent me one of the iterations. It's been around since 2017, I think, but they've finally got these things out and run. This is a company called Portliner, if you're not familiar. It's a European boat builder. They make large flatbed kind of cargo ships for mostly inland travel. I mean, these are not ocean-going cargo carriers, but they are quite large. And they've always been one of those heavy diesel burning ships that we don't particularly care for. But they've actually made a full electric version, and they found a couple really cool, unique ways that electrification of this type of large ship can actually help them. One of which is that they actually were able to increase total capacity by 8%. So they're actually loading more containers now than they used to be, while still maintaining the same kind of range.
So the
And that's
electric
because
motors
they don't have an engine room.
I see. They take up less space,
The engine and the fuel was taking up all the space.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
So this is interesting because
Yeah.
you have they say here that this chief executive of Portliner, Ton Van Meegen, who I'm kind of interested in talking with, said there's a 7,300
Absolutely.
inland vessels across Europe, and more than 5,000 of those are owned by entrepreneurs. And this is something I've seen in pop culture, right? This notion of like the riverboat captain, that person that kind of moves cargo from place to place, you know. And this is in Belgium and Netherlands they're talking about mostly, but they said they can build upwards of 500 a year, but at that rate, it would take 50 years to get the industry operating on green energy. So they're looking to find out ways to ramp this up. It's kind of interesting also because we've been dealing with EcoShip and the discussions of maritime, that the maritime industry, the boats, they tend to have, they're the worst offenders with greenhouse gases, but also with heavy particulate stuff, right? Like NOx and SOx. All the really
it's
mean
heavy.
stuff.
It's heavy diesel, dirty fuel.
So but in this case, with maritime, they can kind of, I guess the industry can kind of get away with that to a certain degree because ports get that, but outside of that, you're out in the middle of nowhere, right? But in this case, you're in inland, I guess, rivers and things of that nature. So people are going to be around this. So this actually can make a big difference to people's lives if they're not choking on that diesel from these barges.
Yeah, it's a really big deal. Just the first 6 barges alone are expected to remove 23,000 trucks from the roads annually. So these are up and down throughout the Netherlands. That's a huge number in my mind, and they're doing it with renewables. That's another key piece of this puzzle, is that they're actually got containers full of batteries. Basically, that's how they power these ships. So they take like 4 containers of batteries that plug into the ship, but then they get to offload those with the rest of the containers, and those charge on land from renewable sources.
That's remarkable. And then, of course, you've got from renewable sources. So presumably you have solar farms or hydro or wind or something like that. That's
whatever it happens to be. I think they have an agreement with the power company to make sure that they're getting green power as opposed to.
Yeah, and that could change. Yeah, I mean the whole thing about like how transportation is becoming electrified, it changes the idea of where you need those large resources of renewables as well. It kind of can alter that. So
yeah, absolutely.
Wow, very cool stuff, man. This is kind of like maybe like an early stage EcoShip or some of these other electrification of the seas conversations. So I love it. What is?
Yeah, absolutely. It is only canals, but sure. Where are all those batteries coming from? China poised to dominate EV battery manufacturing. There are more than 90 battery manufacturers now in China, and they are expanding rapidly. So I found this article on Green Tech Media about specifically how much they're growing and where they are. There are obviously some gigafactories that they worked out with Tesla, but there's a lot of other companies that are really large in the space. And there's a Wood Mackenzie Power and Renewables research project on figuring out exactly who these people are. They're really knocking out like the tier 1 vendors, the South Korean, Japanese, that have been the typical source for super high quality batteries, the Panasonics and Sonys and such, LG, are now threatened by these Chinese giants.
Wow. It's interesting too because we learned a little bit with our relationship, Anthony, with Heng Hank Rogers of Blue Planet Foundation, Blue Planet Energy, that a battery is not a battery, right? So there's this notion that not only are there different chemistries, but within those chemistries, there's different qualities of those chemistries. And then and Hank's put a lot of time and energy into trying to kind of create an educational, kind of almost like marketing platform to be able to help people understand those differences. Because really, the market needs to be educated. I know we need to be educated to understand exactly what's out there. But to think of China taking over the market, I wonder if that affects what if they're lithium iron phosphate. I wonder if Murata, for example, who is a dominant player that bought Sony and the lithium iron phosphate that Hank uses, I wonder if they're able to match that quality in these Chinese manufacturers or not.
Well, that's the whole conversation. The whole conversation with the blue ion battery is that their thing that they always tried educating people with, that they refine the lithium to parts per billion, opposed to where other battery manufacturers just refine the lithium to parts per million. So that was always a big talking point with those batteries, and quality. That's why they were able to offer such a good warranty, because it was a good, high refined product. I don't know if China's going to be able to keep up with that, or if maybe they already have something better. Who knows?
Right.
So,
who knows? Right.
Yeah.
And then that
Well, that's it. Battery chemistry is changing all the time. This Wood Mackenzie planned battery manufacturing capacity expansion report actually it says for all battery applications, chemistry types is expected to grow 2.5 times by 2026, which is not that far away.
The full capacity of battery manufacturing is going to grow 2.5 times in China alone.
In China,
I see.
China alone.
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, we know that storage is the mechanism to allow renewables to make an impact. So I guess it makes perfect sense, right? Very good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very, very, very good. Any companies to keep a look at? It's the Chinese leading EV battery producers: BYD Co., Contemporary Amperex Technology, CATL. Are these publicly traded companies, Jay? Did you get into any of that? I don't know. So
traded in within China. I don't really have that information.
Okay. Well, thanks for that. All right. So what do you want to talk about next? You want to move over to Latin America?
Yeah, Costa Rica has been kind of on our minds for a number of years, but we've never been able to go. Who wouldn't want to go? But you had sent me this other article down. Costa Rica has just run 100% renewable energies for 300 days. They put out an annual report, and they've actually been doing this for many, many years. They have a tremendous amount of geothermal, hydro, and more recently solar and wind they're picking up all their energy needs. Granted, their energy needs are not gigantic. They don't do a tremendous amount of domestic manufacturing, for example. But Costa Rica has been able to generate 98% of its electricity for only renewable sources for years.
So so they've been able to do this for quite some time. But you had said that is this mainly because it's a smaller grid overall? Is that what you were saying?
Smaller grid, and like I said, they have a lot of hydroelectric plants that generate nearly 74% of Costa Rica's electricity. Wind at 15%, geothermal at 8%. Biomass and solar were both at less than 1%, although solar is certainly gaining because it's a very sunny area. But the most interesting thing is that their electric, I hesitate to call it electric company because it's not. It's actually a state-run institution, the Costa Rica Institute for Electricity, and as actually their phone company as well, is run by the state. And they're very happy that way. Privatization doesn't come up in conversation very often.
So an unusual kind of success story where the government's really doing a great job and everybody's happy with it.
It's interesting because they have trust in the government that a government-run agency can do it. The government agency is actually doing the job, and everybody's happy.
Yeah, they also that is kind of is a standout thing. She also mentioned here that while fossil fuels have all but been eliminated by electric grid, Costa Rica still relies heavily on gas and oil for heating and vehicles, which accounts for about 70% of the overall domestic energy consumption, right? So, and that's primarily oil.
I'd like to watch this over the next couple of years as electric vehicles become more common. What is that mixture going to look for them?
Well, it seems
because
they
actually have the option.
Yeah. I mean, they're positioned to be able to do that, right? They're talking about
absolutely. And they are expanding. Their energy needs are certainly expanding. They're actually putting up another 55 megawatts of geothermal power plant is coming online this month, actually, and it's a month ahead of schedule because they've been heavy rains, and they haven't been able to generate the wind, solar, and hydro that they have wanted to. So they're actually pressing this geothermal plant into service earlier than they expected.
Pretty interesting to think of a geothermal plant going in. You know, we just had our experience here with losing our geothermal over in Big Island.
Right.
What's the size of this? This is we say 55 megawatts. That we said
55 megawatt. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. All right.
Nice big plant.
Very good. Very good.
Let's bring it a little closer to home. New York's grid operators are having issues pushing their policy through. There's a lot of conversation. I mean, they had the 100% renewables for the city, 50% by. I mean, the New York's goals are ambitious, right? It's kind of become a one-upmanship conversation between the states and the governorships to see who's going to get there first, right? But it does leave the utility and network owners kind of in the lurch, where they have to live up to these expectations. But there's really no precedent for the transition that they're being asked to make.
So the policymakers are setting out goals, and then they're saying, "Okay, go ahead and figure it out."
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, 100% by 2040 now, as Cuomo's pledge. So how do you get there? The answer is we don't know. So they're going through and they're actually trying to figure out all these things. And one of the fun bits that's coming up in a what is it called? Proposal to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission from New York is that a $50 per ton carbon dioxide tax, essentially a charge, would be added to the energy industry's mix. And it's an incentive, a negative incentive, to kind of get people to stop emitting quite so much carbon dioxide.
So that's for anyone in the state, or is that specifically for the
anyone
energy
in
producers?
The state. No, anyone in the state. Any industrial.
So this is kind of an interesting area, because there's this discussion in the investment in the renewable energy area, and these impact investors and these organizations around the country and the world that are saying that, hey, you know, the breakout opportunities, specifically I'm quoting ValueAct's Jeff Ubens, who's I think in charge of like multi-billion-dollar hedge fund that focuses on these things. And, you know, he's talking about how the breakout opportunities are in the renewable energy sector, are in, you know, these types of companies. And, you know, as an example, he, I think we talked a little bit about Nikola, which is that I got 4 minutes. Yeah, I got Nikola, which is that semi company, right? That semi truck company. Yep. And he was saying that, you know, it pencils now well against diesel, but once they price in the cost of carbon, it'll be a breakout success. It'll be, you know, a $300 million company like overnight. So this pricing of carbon is a really important thing in terms of motivating companies and to motivating the utilities to do something, but also in terms of, you know, making these companies profitable and being able to kind of like survive.
Yeah, well, the big problem is the downstate energy grids in New York, zones F through K, are actually still 70% fossil fuel. And even though the New York grid operators group is proposing this, the individual owners of those generating facilities are pushing back pretty hard, because they're still producing a lot of carbon, and that would severely impact their bottom line. So it's very much a conversation.
Okay, Jelly, we got a couple minutes left here. You want to try to touch on Tesla real fast?
Oh, Tesla's fun, isn't it? They always get a bit of a spot on the show. Tesla is looking to regain its luster in solar energy by slashing prices. This is a New York Times article from the 30th of April, where they go into what Tesla just had an earnings call. They were talking about how they are going to turn this whole Solar City debacle around. A number of years ago, Tesla acquired Solar City for what was claimed to be kind of too much money, but they assumed it was going to be a natural fit. You sell electric vehicles to people. If they don't have solar, they're going to want it, because you want to be able to drive on sunshine. You don't want to have to pay somebody else to burn coal 100 miles away for you to drive your electric vehicle and look all green. So it was kind of the conversation made sense, but realistically, they haven't been able to sell.
Yeah, no, I mean, so what's going on here with Tesla really is that they are looking to cut soft costs, cut out the sales door knocking process, cut out a lot of the truck rolls, the things that are really expensive. They're also trying to put pressure on the permitting processes, and they're saying they're going to be able to get the prices for residential solar from 175 to I think 195 a watt. Now, I did see that afterwards, them talking about that being a post-tax credit number, which was interesting. That really changes the conversation considerably, right? But assuming they're just talking about a straight 30% federal, you're still, like in a pretty good territory. I think it's somewhere in like 250 a watt retail range, right? Which is less than most. So
something like 15 to 16% less than the average competitor's price these days, which is a significant dip. The other interesting thing I saw in here is that they're not looking to what you guys were doing when you were doing solar for the island was you basically make a custom install, right? Every single install is you go to the house, you look at the roof, you figure out where
they're
you
trying
can
to
put
do it in
stuff,
4
and
kilowatt blocks,
how many
right?
panels, etc. It's basically a set. You're going to buy the Tesla set, and it's in 4 kilowatt blocks exactly. So you either get a 4 or 8. If you can't fit 8, you get 4.
The cheaper it gets, the more comfortable I think people are going to be with oversizing, though. Right. So I thought about that too. Right. It's like we try to do it to the very specific degree, very specific accuracy. But and the thing is, people's energy consumption changes over time. So, very interesting thing here to see Tesla doing that. We'll have to see if it pans out. I don't see them doing much business around here, but it's a great model. And if the customer service can support it, then we're in good shape.
It's really hard because they don't have a sales staff anymore.
Right. We'll see how it goes. Okay, I think that pretty much gives us our time for the news and events, Jay. We're going to go into commercials. When we come back, we're going to be with Brent Alderfer, and he is with Community Energy, which is a great organization to hear all about.
optimistic, but so Brent, tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization. Give us a little bit of background. That's a good place to start, because that's who you are. And kind of catch us up. Is it Alderfer? That's good. Alderfer. So that's a community energy and that's who we are right now and what you're up to. Happy to do it. So whatever time that is the time to do it. Right. Here's a question for you. So we have maybe some more kind of valuable aspects of understanding, right? So what we understand that we have to find the right mechanism in criteria. The 100 megawatts of solar, right? This is 180 gigawatts of solar plus wind, like being deployed globally throughout the world in 2018. So, and I understand it's closer to a gig plus, right? And we have a terawatt. I can make this up. So we have closer to a terawatt to be able to deploy about energy generation. So we have that plus, I suppose, right? And so can we tax our deployments? Do you have a sense of what that looks like? Are there some kind of critical points or critical technical changes or cost changes between solar storage, wind, any of those things that factory what gets us from here to 10x multiplier over that time? Let's start with the U.S. right? Yeah. So when you conversation before, and now it's a conversation of just solar wind as a general battery storage with costs coming down in storage, and plus business like that, up to 50% of my life. Large proportion of transportation also has to be accounted for, right over for both of that makes sense, right? Vehicles, somewhere in the west. So, it's really well part of it. Let's explore electrified transportation and clean up generation. It's a way to do it dramatically in the AI. And we put that out globally. That's what's happening. Look, I've been in this it's kind of frustrating to have a great designer. Well, trying to come together and trying to have a program like I'm trying to fail on a perfect good flow. This is a great point. I definitely want to get to the global conversation. But so right now, when you say we've got the kind of formula to be able to okay, we've got 8% reduction in carbon emissions by the next decade. We're talking a long way out. So, and that's how that's huge. Especially from a flow experience of 20 years, I can see where we're going to go and you're wanting this thing to take off. So what are some of the limitations that we're seeing? Is it policy? Is it human social psychology? Is it just and a lot of them could be the way we're talking about it on a national level. Are we do we believe that America is now or can be a leader in this process? Or is it possible that other nation states are going to take away? You're good. It's not over, but I've not yet said that. I was thinking that the world obviously had a place where human beings are actually getting more protection. But, yeah, all of those, going up to that. But I have to say, at the moment, it's probably policy motivation. We're beginning to see the big argument that we need to see the jury, but we have other solutions. So, in North America, it's on because the thing is, Virginia is 630 states, that's a lot of solar and experience. So we really see the utilities in knowing how to handle the economics. Now what you really have is state policies, utility commissions, and firms. Really still the old art of instead of the full base load losses, instead of looking at what's the market structure of everything that's economics and solar, wind, air, and storage, make it a market efficient and in the midst of those kind of policy discussions on the East Coast, some in Colorado, the other one in Colorado, many states are looking at doing the South as a really good place to move economic forward. And I guess that's one more thing. Some people in the industry are winners and losers, right? So I have a Colorado settlement on hiring a person that we want to say is looking at local potential because it's built into this economics where the economy and the economic capital are open. So the other coal plant I'm looking for, how do I get $1 million? I don't want to coal plant companies like that. And it's what you're doing right. Then it's pretty really low. It's not so much like companies, but look, but that's not like cars. It's so big. Extremely powerful. So, like, the mayor signing chunk of them signing up all across the and they were have these statewide, citywide, 100% renewable energy mandates that are getting more and more aggressive. Just like David just said, it's like a competition almost. It's like 2040, now it's 2030. It's not just renewables, now it's carbon free. And it's really they're up to each other. It's almost like moving or something, you know? So we don't do that much support the states, you know? So, what's going on? And I have a comment. Yeah, please. So, that's the moment that's exciting. And who might have predicted 2 years ago to get to that kind of rate? So, that's the only thing that happened on that. What I put in the commentary on those 100% renewable mandates is to look at what happened in the fact that by 2030, it's not likely. This is happening in the next 10 years. Well, we're in deep trouble as a planet. So, 100% goal that we're going to get to for renewables, I believe it's low. But I have to say that that's the solution I like to say. And to get to that, how long can it be by 2030? So, eventually I have to get to that. And people have to think that I get to 80%. So, what are the milestones, right? Yeah. What are the milestones? So, Puerto Rico is kind of on the date flow. I had to come by 26. And when I got into it, I really liked that. Because they said 40% renewable by 2025 and retire all the coal by 2028. So, you're going to come there's a blueprint, right? Like 100% pay 80% first, and we have to do that fast. So, that's what I was looking at in each state. It's like 100%. I was wondering, why, you know, where you with your goal is like, what's pretty far along. But 27% when you know, we're 27% right now. It's supposed to be at 90%. I think. Yeah, you just have to put that on the road and do 3% of that. Which is what we do. It's actually hard to spend. I don't think you can deal with what's the last and battery and stuff like that. Just tell you what happens. Yeah, it's like 2050 goals. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think about 2050. I have to get through that next one. Okay, so we talked about the country, and of course, we talked about policy on statewide mandates, citywide mandates, and we have to get more aggressive. Now, are we in some sort of federal level? Just kind of like get that out of here. Let's say that there's some very different federal policies in place, right? We're very aggressive mandate at the federal level. Like AOC's green energy, for example, I don't know if you're a subscriber to them. Yeah, but if we had some kind of a major federal initiative, would that be voting on this new energy? I guess basically taking the reins of this policy. Right. The biggest impediment. So, first, let's just talk about the so that's the zero now. So, the municipality can do the flexibility and outside of the original expand in the beginning. So that's the problem. But as to where the pyramid, the feds are approving of conduct and trust in the West. And a big problem is the first and the current administration, the reduction of reduced carbon. So, even things like the first price, basically, the market design gets subsidies to coal on a road. That just makes it that much harder for the state of retiring coal even. It's an owner of power, it's not a way to do it. So, it's probably harder to overemphasize how much the problem is. But as well as change course, I think we're very comfortable with the block problem. Okay, so let's talk about let's talk about that a little bit. So this is what we like to big into this. It's very helpful, and I think that I'm going to send you an article that's titled "Why Electric Cars Store 3.4 Gigawatt Hours of Storage, 1.3 megawatts equivalent in the latest solicitation." So this is what's going on out here in our neck of the woods. They're on the second phase of renewable energy approach. And so I think that there's a lot going on out here, and it's great to hear from your perspective of the last 20 years in the industry and where you think see things going over the next couple of decades. That's pretty much the song for the end of the show here. Hey, we're going to wrap it up. This is thank you again. Brent, thanks for having me. Yeah. Hey, folks. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, folks, this is Solar Rooster. We are sponsored by Solar. Design. And LG Code. Thanks to our sponsors, and thanks to Brent from Community Energy. It's been a great show.